TRC Music.
Nash is mad now.
Thank y'all for coming our way here again. So we got a great show. We're back.
Notice in MMA, I set a formula that works. I wear gloves. I wear the wrist wrap where the swabs are here instead of in your mouth or in your ears. And, I put the Vaseline here and I'll work on the fighters like an artist, and I'll get a small cloth that's wet and clean them up. And so a lot of the guys in MMA have followed that technique because it works. And you'll see a lot of the young generation guys in boxing starting to do that. But you see the old guys that don't have gloves, they put the shit in their mouth. Those are the old school cutmen. And, it still happens in boxing. Not so much in MMA, you won't see that. In boxing.
Wow. I didn't know you were the originator of the wrist wrap.
Well, let me tell you the history on that. The originator was Rudy Hernandez, and I was with him last night. So Rudy Hernandez we were talking about it because he was, Leon Tabs was the first guy working the UFC. I came in second, Don House came in third, and then Rudy Hernandez came in fourth. So he had that created for himself. And Rudy knows I'm more of a marketing guy than he is, right? It made so much sense. And, I had my stitch line, I had my own products, right? I said, Rudy, this is a great idea. Do you mind if I make them and put my name on it? He goes, nah, go ahead, go for it. And I said, there's not a lot of money in it because there's not that many cutmen, number one, but it's more of doing the right thing, and then put my name on it. So I was with him last night and I was just talking about it. But yeah, Rudy Hernandez, to set the record straight, is the one that created the wrist wrap, but I'm the one that promoted it going on. And everyone that you see wearing them is because I made it available to them. And and then also with Rudy Hernandez, let me throw you another little trivia here. He is the one, because before everybody used to have, I think, red tape. That's it. Both corners had red tape. First it was duct tape. They wrapped the glove.
Yep.
It was duct tape, right? And then someone decided, well, let's go red tape, whatever that was. Well, Rudy Hernandez brought in the blue tape to the UFC. And from there on, everybody started using red and blue. So that's a fact. I was there. I know.
What was the name of your kickboxing school?
ASK, the American School of Kickboxing. And I worked with a lot of super fighters, man. Like guys now in boxing would go to a gym to let's say MMA, go to Greg Jackson's to train, right? I had guys come to me to train. And but I had, kids and adults and, and that's why that one more round and, that's all that. But yeah, it was very successful. Javier Mendez that trains Habib and all that. I worked with him when he was a fighter, and a lot of these guys, kickboxers. I had a good crew of kickboxers.
You said something interesting. I heard you say. You said where you start isn't where you're gonna always end. And you talked about having a journey going from here, but you might end up doing. Hey, it went from being a young farmer worker with dreams of being a baseball player to not even arguably, you just Google the best cut man in boxing, your face pops up. How does that feel?
It's embarrassing, bro. I'm telling you, I'm not gonna lie. I still stay very humble because of where I come from. I never forget where I come from. And if you notice the fights, as you go back and you see the fights again tonight, when I'm in the corner on my collar, you'll see a word that says Planada. Well, Planada is my hometown, and that's like prime location for the cameras, because when I'm working on the fighters, the cameras behind me and they're locked into me working on them. So Planada is my little hometown of 1,500 people. Majority of them are Mexican farm workers, but I do it to inspire them. And like I say, it's not for the world to know who Planada is. It's for the people from Planada to know that I'm there to support them, and it really makes them feel real good. So yeah, that's I always get back to them, So, but yeah, it's quite humbling, man, just to be rewarded with these type of words, But I'm like you, man. I'm just a guy that's good at what I do.
Man, so like I said, you're the best damn cut man money can buy, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Like, where did the one more round thing come from?
All right. In fact, I just got a text right when we're talking. Mark Zucker, see, let me tell you how this started and how destiny always works for me. And everything to this point, everything that I've done, I swear I have never asked for one job. I'm just a proud Mexican. I just can't do that, right? I've had opportunities to do this, but I've never done it. But uh, Mark Zucker was watching Balboa, and it turned out that that was when Rocky fought his last fight against Antonio Tarver, Mason the Lion Dixon. Well, I was a cut man for Antonio Tarver in the movie, right? So Mark Zucker well, let's fast forward back. When the UFC was hot with getting sponsors and all that, uh, that Balboa, Mark Zucker was watching the movie Balboa, where Rocky said, "I got to go one more round," that type of thing. And he thought, man, because he's a closing designer anyway. He used to BC Ethics and all that, and he thought, wow, that's the nice line for anything. And so he got a hold of Matt Hughes and sponsored him in the UFC. And Matt Hughes says, man, if you want to sponsor anybody that gives a fighter one more round, it's Stitch. So Mark got a hold of me and we met here at Las Vegas. And from there, it became history, man. People thought that company, One More Round, was my company. They make great outfits. They're the ones that helped Affliction, and they're the ones that helped all these other companies. He manufactures to this point the clothes for these high-end companies. So, yeah, Mark was my sponsor, for the longest time. And then, the UFC started hitting everybody up for, you got to pay if you want to advertise these guys on our shows, you got to pay us this. And, things got tough and he pulled out. And so I lost contact with him for many, many years. And I did this KSI fight with Logan Paul, and he sees me. He's there with his son. His son talked him into watching the fights, and he called me up, and he's the one that made my outfit for the Tyson Fury fight. When I met Tyson Fury, I said, I work with sponsors, and do you mind if I make an outfit like yours, same colors, and then put my sponsors? And man, he puts his hand on my shoulder, says, Stitch, you can do whatever you want. So Mark made those, and he made the ones that I used last night. So we're back in touch, man, and just by the grace of God. But I always told him, I said, that one more round, and he brought that up, could go for anything in life. You
Right.
can't quit. You got to go one more round. If you're playing golf, go that one more round. If whatever it is in life, just don't quit. Go that one more round. So yeah, so I try to support it as much as possible because that's kind of like my tagline.
Right. When you go to onemoreround.com, you're the first face I see. I thought it was your website as well.
Yeah, everybody does. But Mark's he just texted me because I sent him a picture. We haven't spoken. We were going to kick the new one more round. We did start kicking it off when Tyson Fury fought, and then this pandemic kicked in, and with his employees and all that, just became extremely hard. So hopefully down the road, I like to make. I'm not good with T-shirts. A little too old for that, but I'm good with button-down shirts like this. But we could do something. Nice designs in the back, one more round, and just real. So there's things I want to do this route, and he's good for the T-shirts. I'm good for the shirts.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. Do you ever feel anxiety or any pressure when you're dealing with a guy who he has a lot of scar tissue? He's been cut before and been cut bad. They brought you in because you're the best.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel any pressure or anxiety going into it? And or if you don't, talk to about those butterflies that you've heard about, but I'm sure you got them early on.
Yeah, no, at this point right now, I'm pretty confident in myself. And I like Jason Quigley last night. Worked with him for the first time, and after the fight, man, he gives me a hug in the hallway. Thanks, Stitch. It's more than what you do mechanically. Your inspirations, the positivity you bring, and the knowledge you bring. He goes, it's very fulfilling for someone like me. Man, that made me feel good. But yeah, shoot, that's just kind of not the way I am.
Your process. You at this point you've been doing it long enough. How did you come up with the process that you have now? Because I heard you tell stories where you say, "Hey man, I bring enough for like 4 or 5 guys."
Yeah.
That's overachieving, right? 8 fighters worth of tape, 8 fighters worth of gauze.
Yeah, I always prepare for worst case scenario. I had guys that, hey man, don't worry, you're on holiday. you don't have to worry he never gets cut. Well, shit, that get, but I always prepare because especially when it comes to rapping hands, you'll get guys like last night. I rapped two additional guys that I wasn't even supposed to rap, but they asked me. And one guy's a 4-rounder, a young guy, and but both of them were 4-rounders. But I said, yeah, I'll do it, and I'll do it for one reason, and that's so that you guys could understand. Talk about the fighter, so you could understand the importance of having a good team, and the importance of having a proper rap. So I always get back to these young guys, and so yeah, that's something that I continue doing, and even like Jason Quigley, wrapped his hands, and then I always make sure I get a hug from them, and after that, I said, no, we're not done yet. You got to give me a hug. Even Russians, and it's a
Right.
trip to these Russians because they're very, very stoic, right? But I'll break them down, man. But they know I'm there to take care of them. That's the main thing, and I think that's the process that you ask. And yeah, early on, yeah, there's drills, but you're talking about these cut men. When it happens, you see their hands are shaking, and
That
that,
part.
or you're using a big towel, or they're just the techniques are totally wrong. They do it by watching other people, and that's why I want to teach all the time. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer, because I was telling the father of this young kid, that the 4-rounder that I rapped last night, I said, it's important for you guys to understand, how to take care of them. I said, you as a coach you could teach your son how to fight, but nobody teaches you how to take care of your son. And that's my commitment to this sport.
Hey, let me ask you this straight up. You was there last night in the corner. Did you think Haney was hurt by the shot in the 10th round, at the end of the 10th round?
Yeah, well, I got ice on him, So, the legs will tell you a lot, and yeah, he got buckled, no doubt about it. And just walking back, it took him about 3 steps to get coordinated again. So yeah, he got that little buzz shot.
Right. Yeah, man. I think the kid is phenomenal, and I think he's going to go really far. And I think some of the critics might be a little too hard on him. Like, it's a part of the game. Ward got dropped. Floyd was wobbled and buckled before versus Shane. I saw Floyd look hurt by Maidana at the end of a round like that with a counter right. So I just think it's a part of the game. You're gonna get hit. It's boxing. How far did you go with your combat skills? Did you compete or did you just train?
Yeah, it's funny because this is 1974. I'm in Thailand, right? And kickboxing was when I got back to the States. I didn't even know what Muay Thai was, number one. But I studied there for that whole year. I studied Taekwondo for 3 months with the Koreans, and then they left and the Thais took over. But when I got back to the States, kickboxing was at its infancy, and I wasn't even looking at that. But I joined a couple karate tournaments, one in South Dakota where I was my last base, and then another one in Oakland, and everything that I did was with my feet, and I won them both. And I think I fought 3 guys in South Dakota, and the guy for the championship fight, I did it in 2 kicks. I kicked him with a stepping side kick, a Korean kick, right in the ribs, and kind of knocked his wind out, and they stopped it. Like the Karate Kid, I got to face away from him and get on my knees and face away from him, and back, and then I gave him a roundhouse right in the same spot, and that was 2 shots, right? And one guy said, "Hey man, you're kicking too hard," because I didn't know, point karate is points. Kickboxing, we did a full contact. So yeah, that was it. But I had an 8 to 5 job as a corporate America with RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company. So yeah, fighting wasn't even in my mind, and working 8 to 5 with a company car and all that took my priority. So, but I still stayed in the game. And when I was in Oakland, I helped put the boxing program together at King's Gym and all that. But yeah, I was designed to be a fighter. I've took my shots and I've given my shots, so I know what it feels like to get cracked, and I know what it feels like to crack somebody. So those I understand, and that's why I could read fighters as good, because I've been there.
Absolutely. And you train, you was a trainer at one point as well, cut man, gym owner, kickboxing. You competed, you said. You said this before. These guys are modern day gladiators, and we all need somebody to put on our armor. With that said, Deontay Wilder put on a lot of armor, and he later said it was because of his legs. He later said someone might have spiked his water. I've heard stories of egg weights possibly being in the gloves. In this fight, I believe he was on the other side. What's your take on that? I've heard it before, but I would like for you to say it on my platform.
Okay, yeah, of course, yeah, and let me get back a little bit. Yeah, I was a trainer before. I was a good trainer, and I didn't come to Vegas. I've been here 26 years to be a trainer because I thought all the great trainers in the world were here in the boxing capital of the world. But as I'd walk into the gym, I'd see these guys. I was real good at doing pads, and plus I had the knowledge of because I worked with so many fighters as a coach. But I had an 8 to 5 job, and I couldn't give you 150%. They would literally hire me to do pads. Didn't I worked with Johnny Tapia, Raul Marcus, Mike McCallum, Franco Bota when he fought Tyson. Panama Lewis would call me to work with Sultan and Timura Brugumov. So they would call me. I would sneak away from work and do pads. That's about as far as I could do. And but yeah, so being a trainer, I could definitely do that. What was the question on this one now? Because you asked about. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he had on too much armor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had on a little too much armor. You think that's cap? You think he bullshitting, man?
Yeah, that's one of the things is when you lose, you find ways of putting it on something else, and a lot of times it's the coach, and this one had to be one of them, right? But yeah, putting the armor on. Number one, why would you walk in with 40 pounds of stuff, or why would you, if you were training with 40 pounds of stuff on you, 40 pounds in the from the dressing room to the ring shouldn't make that much of a difference. But he got spanked. Literally, and even the thing with the gloves, how many interviews I did about the gloves that Tyson pulled them out, and it's just bullshit because when you wrap hands and you put the gloves in, they're pretty much locked in there. And then if you tape them like that red or blue tape, how are you going to pull your? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard from people reacting to Deontay Wilder losing. But as I was walking out, I'm the one in the 5th round. I'm looking at the corner and I'm telling Tyson and Sugar Hill, because I worked with Sugar Hill many times. I said, man, they're going to stop the fight. You could just then and I did an interview with the BBC as I was walking out, and I said, the type of shots that Deontay Wilder was taking were what I call deep penetrating shots that will take an effect later on in time, and later on in time is the dementia pugilistica. So Mark Breland is stopping the fight really did the best thing that he could have done for Deontay Wilder's career.
Why do you say that?
Because he was taking those deep penetrating fights, and he wasn't going to win the fight. If he would have continued fighting, and of course the heart of the warrior. And listen, I worked with what was his name? Anyway, he fought Deontay Wilder and he knocked him out cold and sent him to the hospital. Right?
Brazil?
I'm trying to think who he was. No, he's from Belarus. I'll think of his name. Anyway, yeah. So, but he could hit hard, and the thing about it, he does have the heart of the warrior. So, if he would have stayed in 2-3 more rounds, he would have got knocked out eventually, just because of the style of fighting that Tyson Fury was on point, and he had already read Deontay Wilder. So, yeah, Mark Breland, saved him, from long term.
What do you say to when people say, hey, he might have spiked this water? He didn't get fired for he didn't get fired for spiking the water. He got fired for stopping the fight. But those stories were out there about him spiking the water. As a trainer, as a fighter, I know you always say, hey, man, I treat these guys like they my son.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel when you hear somebody saying that in the corner?
I feel that they're probably an armchair quarterback and have never really been in the gym and don't understand that, what we do at this level, we're all top level professionals, and there's no need for anybody to be doing anything like that. That's crazy. That's Rocky stuff, and that's only Hollywood.
TRC Music.